we talked about this Democratic governor plan, at least in 3 instances, of somehow recruiting young men back to the Democrat Party. Those in power over in the U.S. Senate, for example, seem to have a different approach in mind. And all I can guess is that this is their idea of the masculinity that they have erased from their own party. They think this is how to restore it. You tell me whether you agree and whether this is effective. Take a look.
Hey there, Chris Murphy.
Chris Murphy.
It's been a very long day today, full of a lot of bullshit, a lot of threats to democracy.
So tonight I want to talk about Signalgate and what a colossal fuck up this is in terms of our national security.
Which to divert people from the number one issue we have against these bastards, these people.
So 3 U.S. senators, and one of whom is the minority leader. More and more, off-color words. I'm a big fan of swearing, as my audience knows. It only works if it comes organically to you. This did not seem organic at all. Chuck Schumer seemed uncomfortable actually saying it there. But my own belief, Jordan, is that this is their belief of how to win young men back.
That's a topic well worth delving into, partly because it would also enable us to talk a little bit about what's happening hypothetically on what is hypothetically described as the right. So I guess there's a number of people who have influenced young men in a more conservative direction. And I'm one of them, and Ben Shapiro is another, and Andrew Tate is a third. And I warned people back in 2016 that they kept making men weak, that there would be a consequence of that. Because weak men do very terrible things. They turn, for example, for their models to people like Andrew Tate. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up in relationship to the clips that you showed me is because you put together 3 clips that are predicated on the assumption that masculinity has this kind of brusque, pushy, I don't give a damn if I swear on national TV because I'm so tough kind of men to it. And it's very easy for weak men to assume that power is the defining characteristic of a respectable man, like an actually masculine man. And that's what Andrew Tate, at least in part, purports to sell his audience. So now Andrew Tate is a very bad actor, to say the least. He's a pimp, an electronic pimp. And I think pimps are possibly the lowest form of male life because they are parasitic on women. And that's about as bad as you can get if you're a man. Maybe you can get lower because you can be parasitic on children. But being parasitic on women, that's pretty bad. And he's taught his followers how to be this, playboy Lothario type of love him and leave him, do it my way or hit the goddamn highway sort of attitude. And, if you've been demoralized your entire life and you haven't been attractive to women and you're not doing well in your career and very disoriented and you've had no role models at all, then someone who has all the trappings of surface success like Andrew Tate and who's very good at flaunting it can look like just the medicine you need. And give the devil his due, I can understand why men who have nothing would at least want to have something. And I can see that Andrew Tate offers that to them. And that is not any advocacy for Andrew Tate, as I've already made my view of him very clear. Now, the left likes to think that Andrew Tate and me, for example, are gateways to the alt-right, and that somehow we're the same. And we're not the same at all. And what I'm offering young men is the pathway to adulthood through responsibility, not through the exercise of power. Now, if you're powerful and you're strong and you're forthright and you're articulate, then you can harness all that power into your responsibility, and that can make you an even better man. But if you weaken men, they will 100%. They'll become nihilistic, they'll become hedonistic, and they'll worship power. And Andrew Tate is exactly the face of power worship. And you can bloody well see a lot more of that coming down the pipes. And if the Democrats are daft enough to turn to power representation of masculinity because they're too foolish to understand the relationship, let's say, between responsibility and proper masculinity, then they deserve exactly what's coming to them. And what will come to them is no increase whatsoever in their approval rating among young men, because anyone with a clue can see through what they're doing in 15 seconds flat. But they'll also do nothing but promote people like Andrew Tate, and then we'll have serious.
You know, it's interesting because I listened to a bunch of leftists talk about this issue in recent weeks because I'm curious to see what they think the problem is. And many, if not all, blame President Trump. They think he's, a bully. He swears occasionally. He's not nice to people, they think. They think he's bad to women. And then Elon gets dumped in there for good measure, too, as same on all those fronts. And once again, Jordan, I think they've totally misunderstood what it is about Trump, and for that matter, Elon, that is drawing young men to them. I don't think it has anything to do with Trump and his behavior toward women 30 years ago. And I don't think it's Trump's occasional dropping of a swear, although I do think that makes him seem much more relatable to especially the working class. That's how folks talk. That's how I talk too, frankly. But I think it makes him more relatable as opposed to a Mitt Romney who's just perfectly buttoned up and smoothed out. And, there's less to sort of grab onto, less grit. Elon is incredibly successful, which I think everyone can respect. But he's not out there, I don't know, maybe he's a little pugilistic these days because he's in it and he's getting punched so often. But can you speak to that? Why do you think the left thinks that what's happening on the right with respect to some admiration for Andrew Tate, et cetera, is really the fault of Donald Trump? That's how they interpret it, these toxically masculine guys are the product of Trumpism.
Well, it's part because the left doesn't have a vision of responsible masculinity. So it's either, soy boy or bully. That's their whole theory of masculinity. And you shouldn't be a bully because that's the worst. And actually, that's not the worst. If you think bully is the worst, you know very little about the worst. There's messes of hell that make bully look like paradise. And the Democrats, progressives, are very naive in their conceptualization of malevolence and evil. Like, they tend to think that bad people are victims. It's like, that's because in their world, bad people don't exist. And in my world, bad people exist. And I know what they're like. And bully is pretty desirable for that person to the real monsters. And the Democrats just have no clue that at all. And so they don't know what sort of man boy would admire if he was set on the right path. Because, for example, they think marriage is a patriarchal, oppressive institution. And so a man who's willing to offer himself as a husband and a father, well, he's just...
They should love Elon. Given his...
willing to marry and have a kid. Well, it is one of the paradoxical things about Elon, too. Like, he's a very weird conservative. So he's not a conservative. Neither is Trump, obviously.
Neither is Trump.
No, and also, by the way, the divide in our society is no longer between left and right. Those categories don't even make any sense anymore, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, one of the Democrats whose video you posted earlier pointed out that, increasingly the Democrats are the party of women. And that's part of what's happening we're actually seeing a sex divide in terms of political affiliation. But it's not because the women are becoming left and the men becoming right. It's because the left is now feminine and the right is now masculine. And the political distinctions have become virtually undetectable and irrelevant. The old categories don't work. Now, it isn't only that the left has become feminine and the right has become masculine. That's a big part of what's driving the strangeness of today's political discourse, because it's also the case that Democrats have become pathologically feminine. And that's not the same thing as becoming feminine.
No,
Now,
I get it.
say, well, the Republicans have become pathologically masculine, and there is danger of that. Like Andrew Tate's face of pathological masculinity, and you can see that to some degree in Trump, because he likes to throw his weight around, and he's actually very good at it. But fundamentally, like, first of all, you can look at his family. I mean, they're a pretty high-functioning bunch. There's no Hunter Biden in the Trump tribe, and he seems to get along pretty well with his wife. And she seems to be a pretty classy character, and she stays in her lane. And I don't mean that in any misogynist way. I mean,
No, in their deal.
Yeah. Well, she's got enough humility to play her role well and to be frankly satisfied and grateful for that by all appearances. And so, Trump is a blustery character, and he's definitely got that kind of throw your shoulders around masculinity that is attractive to people who confuse power with masculinity. But there's a lot more to Trump than that. He's got a vicious sense of humor. He's got a tremendous amount of energy, and he's been successful at like 5 impossible things, just like Musk. And you can throw that away, as you would if you felt that all forms of capitalist success are just another manifestation of oppressive patriarchy. But, that's a pretty idiot theory.
Tariff wars, stubborn inflation. No wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs, right? In volatile markets like the one we have now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? Well, to learn more about how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, just text MK to 989898. Birch Gold is going to send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold's got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. That's big, A+. They've got countless of 5-star reviews, and they have helped too many to count protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess that we are now trying to unpack in DC. How long do you think it's going to take for us to really get out of it, and at what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.